Chapter 1. Leaving the Land of Silence. My name is Hana. I am 30 years old. I was born in a small town in North Korea. My life was always the same. I worked in a factory, ate simple food, and followed strict rules. Speaking freely was dangerous. We could not travel without permission. I had never used the internet or watched a foreign movie. The streets were quiet, except for loud voices praising our leader. I dreamed of another life, but it felt impossible. Then, one winter night, my friend whispered something to me. There was a way out, but it was dangerous. That night, I could not sleep. My heart was racing. Could I trust my friend? Could I survive outside my country? If I was caught, I might be sent to a prison camp, but the thought of freedom pulled me forward. I had heard about the USA. People could speak without fear. They could choose their own leaders. They could live how they wanted. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. I knew the journey would be dangerous, but this might be my only chance. The plan was simple, but risky. I would cross the river into China. From there, I would find people who could help me reach safety. I didn't know their names or faces. I only knew I had to trust strangers. In my country, trusting strangers was dangerous. But now it was my only hope. I packed a small bag, one change of clothes, a piece of bread, and a photo of my parents. I could not tell them. It would put them in danger. I left quietly in the night. It was dark when I reached the river. The ice cracked under my feet. The water was freezing. I looked back at the dim lights of my town. My whole life was there. My childhood, my parents, my fears. But I knew I could not stay. I stepped into the cold water. Each step felt like 1,000 knives on my skin. The sound of soldiers shouting in the distance made me run. I climbed to the other side. I had left North Korea, but my journey had just begun. Chapter 2. The Shadow of Fear. The cold wind cut my face as I walked through the trees. My shoes were soaked from the river. I kept looking over my shoulder, afraid soldiers might appear. My friend's instructions echoed in my mind. Find the old bus station in the small village. Someone will meet you there. I walked for hours, my stomach empty, my legs heavy. The night was black, and the ground was frozen. Every sound made me freeze. I thought about my parents. Were they awake now? Were they looking for me? My heart hurt, but I kept moving forward. When I reached the village, it was silent. Old houses stood in the shadows. I saw a dim light in the distance. The bus station. I walked slowly, making sure no one was following me. Inside the station, a woman in a thick coat was sitting on a bench. She looked at me, and her eyes softened. "You're Hana?" she whispered. I nodded. She stood up, handed me a piece of bread, and told me to follow her. My hands shook, but I obeyed. I had no other choice. We walked to a small house at the edge of the village. The woman closed the door quickly and locked it. "You are safe here for the night," she said. Her voice was kind, but her eyes were worried. She gave me warm tea and a blanket. I sat on the floor, drinking slowly, trying to stop my hands from shaking. "Tomorrow, someone else will take you," she added. I wanted to ask where, but I didn't. In my country, too many questions were dangerous. I simply nodded. That night, I lay awake on a thin mattress. I could hear the wind outside. My body was tired, but my mind was full of fear. What if the police came? What if this woman betrayed me? I reminded myself why I left: to find freedom. I thought about the USA, a place I had only heard about. People there could choose their jobs, their homes, even their clothes. I closed my eyes and tried to imagine it. But right now, freedom felt far away. Chapter 3. Across the Border. The next morning, a man came to the house. He wore a dark jacket and spoke in a low voice. "We leave now," he said. I followed him without asking questions. The streets were empty. We walked fast, avoiding the main roads. Soon, we reached a small truck. He told me to climb inside and hide under a blanket. My heart pounded as the engine started. Every bump in the road made me think of soldiers stopping us. I held my breath whenever we slowed down. Hours passed, and finally, the truck stopped. We were in China. The man pulled the blanket off and said, "You're safe for now." I looked around. The buildings were bigger than in my town. People moved quickly, talking freely, their voices loud. No one wore the badges of the leader. My eyes filled with tears. I was outside North Korea for the first time in my life. But I knew I could not stay in China forever. I had heard stories. North Koreans here could be caught and sent back. That thought made my stomach twist. We walked through busy streets. I tried not to look scared, but everything felt strange. The man bought me a warm bun from a shop. The smell made me dizzy with hunger. I ate slowly, afraid it might be my last good meal for a long time. "Tonight, you will meet people who will take you further," the man said. I nodded, though my throat felt tight. I was living minute by minute. My life now depended on strangers' kindness. That night, we reached another safe house. A young woman opened the door and smiled at me. She gave me rice and soup and a bed with clean sheets. I had never slept on sheets so soft, but my mind was restless. I knew I was closer to freedom, yet danger still followed me like a shadow. I whispered to myself, "Hana, you must be strong." Sleep finally came, but my dreams were full of running. Chapter 4. The Long Road to Freedom. In the morning, the young woman gave me new clothes. "To help you blend in," she said. My old clothes were taken away. We left quickly, walking through alleys. Soon, we boarded a small bus. I sat near the window, staring at the passing scenery. Wide fields, tall buildings, strange signs. Everything was new to me. I wanted to ask questions, but fear kept me silent. I remembered the rule from home: speak less, listen more. But here, people spoke openly to each other, even laughing loudly. It felt like another world. We traveled for hours. At night, we stayed in another safe house. The journey felt endless. Each time I thought we were close, I was told there was more to go. The helpers spoke of reaching a place where the USA would accept me. I didn't fully understand how, but I trusted them. They told me I had to pass through more countries first. My heart sank. More borders, more danger. But turning back was impossible. One evening, a man joined us. He was older, with kind eyes. He told me he had also escaped from North Korea years ago. "I know how you feel," he said softly. "Fear will follow you, but freedom is worth it." His words warmed me. For the first time, I felt a small spark of hope inside me. I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could make it. But danger was never far. Once, in a crowded market, I saw police officers nearby. My whole body froze. The helpers pulled me away quickly. My heart didn't slow down for hours. That night, I prayed silently, not to any god, but to the idea of freedom itself. I promised that if I survived, I would never waste a single moment of it. Chapter 5: A New Sky. Weeks passed before we reached a country where I could speak to officials safely. I gave them my name, my story, and my hope to go to the USA. They listened, nodding slowly. It felt strange to speak the truth without fear. No one interrupted me. No one shouted at me. They offered me food and a warm place to sleep. For the first time, I began to feel human again. The air felt lighter here. The streets were wide, and the sky looked bluer than I had ever seen. People smiled at me, even strangers. At first, I didn't know how to respond. In North Korea, smiling without reason could make people suspicious. Here, it seemed natural. I slowly began to smile back. Each smile felt like a tiny piece of my fear melting away. I was told the process to reach the USA would take time. While waiting, I stayed in a shelter for refugees. There were people from many countries, some from Africa, some from the Middle East, some from other parts of Asia. We shared stories, laughter, and food. I realized I was not alone in my journey. Others had also run from fear and pain. At night, I lay on my bed and thought about my parents. Were they safe? Did they know I was alive? My heart ached, but I reminded myself why I left. I wanted to live in a place where no one could control my every thought. I wanted to be free. The USA was still far, but I could see it in my dreams. Chapter 6: The Call from America. One morning, an official at the shelter called my name. "Hana, the USA has accepted your case," he said. My heart almost stopped. I covered my mouth, tears filling my eyes. "You will fly in 2 weeks," he added. I couldn't believe it. I had lived my whole life thinking such a thing was impossible. Now, it was happening. I wanted to run outside and shout, but I still felt a little fear in my heart. Fear that something might go wrong before I got there. The days passed slowly. I learned small things about America from the shelter workers. They showed me pictures of cities, parks, and houses. I saw people wearing colorful clothes, holding hands in public, even kissing in the street. In North Korea, such things were unthinkable. My chest felt tight. I didn't know if I could fit in a place so different. But deep inside, excitement began to grow. I packed my few belongings, a notebook, my photo of my parents, and some clothes. The helpers gave me warm jackets for the cold weather in America. I didn't own much, but I felt rich in hope. Every night, I lay awake, imagining what my first day there would be like. Would people talk to me? Would I understand them? Would they see me as a stranger or a friend? The night before my flight, I couldn't sleep at all. I kept thinking about the moment the plane would leave the ground. I had never been on a plane before. I had never left Asia. Tomorrow, my life would change forever. I whispered to myself, Hana, tomorrow you will touch freedom. Chapter 7. The First Flight. At the airport, everything felt big and bright. There were so many people, screens, and voices. The helpers stayed with me until I reached the gate. When I stepped onto the plane, my legs shook. The seats were soft, and a kind woman helped me find mine. She smiled, and I managed to smile back. When the plane took off, my heart jumped. I looked out the window and saw the land below getting smaller and smaller. It felt like I was leaving my old life behind forever. Tears rolled down my cheeks, but this time they were happy tears. During the long flight, I thought about my journey, the river crossing, the safe houses, the strangers who helped me. I whispered thank you to each of them in my heart. I also thought of my parents. I promised myself I would find a way to tell them I was safe. When the plane landed, my hands were cold from nervousness. This was it. The USA. My chest was tight, my steps slow, but my heart was racing. I was about to walk into the place I had dreamed about all my life. Chapter 8. A Shock of Freedom. When I stepped outside the airport, I froze. The streets were wide, cars were everywhere, and lights flashed from tall buildings. People walked quickly, talking into small devices. No one seemed afraid. No soldiers, no propaganda posters, no one watching every move. I felt like I had stepped into a dream. A volunteer from the refugee program met me and drove me to my new apartment. I couldn't believe it. I would live alone. In my country, that was almost impossible for a woman my age unless she was married. The apartment had a bed, a fridge, and a TV. I had never used a TV before. That night, I turned it on and saw hundreds of channels. People argued about politics, sang songs, told jokes, and even criticized their leaders. And no one arrested them. My mouth stayed open. I realized I was seeing freedom in action. I lay in bed, my mind spinning. This was the life I had dreamed of, yet it felt almost too big for me. I whispered, "Hana, this is your new world. Learn it, live it, don't waste it." Chapter 9. Learning a new life. The next weeks were full of surprises. I learned how to take the bus, shop in stores, and use the internet. The internet shocked me most. I could see news from all over the world, even from North Korea. I saw things I had never been told at home. My heart ached, but I also felt stronger knowing the truth. People were friendly. Some asked about my story. At first, I was shy. My English was not good, and my past was full of pain. But slowly, I began to speak. Each time I told my story, it felt like a weight leaving my chest. I joined free English classes. My teacher said I was brave. Her words made me smile. In my old life, no one ever called me brave, only obedient. Now, I was building a new identity. One day, I stood in a park, watching children play. Their laughter was free, loud, and full of joy. I realized I was hearing something I had missed all my life. The sound of people unafraid. Chapter 10. My Promise to Freedom. Months passed, and America began to feel like home. I still missed my parents and my town, but I knew I could never go back. My life now was mine to shape. I could choose my job, my clothes, my friends. I could even speak against the government if I wanted. Something impossible in my old life. One evening, I wrote in my notebook, "Freedom is not just walking where you want. It is speaking, dreaming, and living without fear." I promised myself I would never take it for granted. I started volunteering to help other refugees. I met people from many countries, each with their own story of escape. We shared our fears and our victories. We understood each other without needing many words. Sometimes I walk through the city and look at the bright lights. I remember the darkness of my old home, and I whisper to myself, "Hana, you made it." And in that moment, I feel the full weight and beauty of freedom.